Hello everybody. It's that time of the year once more. The nights are getting long, the air is getting colder, the leaves are turning brown, and the sky is grey. And it's time for another Don't Starve Creepypasta reading. Last year we explored my coveted library for all sorts of spooky and scary stories to really get you in the Halloween mood. And they were all, Wilson was in a room with none of his items and his beard shaved. Decent. But today, we're going to do something a wee bit scarier. Instead of getting our stories from the clay forms, which some might argue is the scariest place known to mankind, we're going to be getting them from somewhere worse. My Discord. Yep, this year's Creepypasta reading will be brought to you by the ghouls and ghosts over on the BopyTheBrave. I asked them to write their best scary starving stories, and today we'll be going over some that really got my bones around. Sadly, due to the amount of stories you guys actually wrote, I cannot include all of them, so if your story does not appear in this video, I do greatly apologise. They were all lovely though, trust me. But it's time we get stuck in, so sit back, grab a cup of spooky juice, and get ready to indulge in some really good stories. The first one we'll be looking at is, how about this one? Okay, so here's the thing. I started New World as Wormwood and decided to live near Pig King, because, you know, hallowed nights, etc. It's better to live near the guy. So I settled in, placed a fire pit, science machine, and when it became dark, I decided to burn some trees around base for rock pots. I expected the whole area to be bright, but there were a mysterious dark spot around Glommer statue, which I found weird. I decided to investigate the place, and the moment I walked to the statue, my torch started repeatedly losing durability, and my sanity started draining really fast. But I got the flower from the statue. It was a rose. Then, weird shadow-looking Glommer flew up to me. I decided that Clay added something new in a recent update, and went with it. Days went by. I made a pretty decent base for first autumn, and it turned out that Shadow Glommer produces nightmare fuel from time to time. Neat. I didn't even notice how days passed, and the day 11 occurred. I immediately thought, maybe I can get 2 Glommers. It would be nice. I still need something to bloom with, so the full moon began. I rushed to the Glommer statue, but when I got there, there were only my Shadow Glommers, a rose, bunch of pink goop, Glommer's wings, and dead Glommer flower. Though it was a bummer, I still got some goop to get me till spring. I picked up everything, and decided to go home. On day 14, hounds really caught me off guard, so I had to run. Some hounds de-aggroed off me, and attacked Shadow Glommer. When I came back to base after hound attack, I was ready to fight more, but to my surprise hounds were already dead, and my guy was unharmed. As days went by, I started noticing how Glommer's Rose and Shadow Glommer started following me. Usually it appears off screen, so I always had to pick it up. It got annoying, so I decided to leave it somewhere in the forest, and it seems it worked. Glommer didn't bother me anymore. Next survival went as expected, killed some bosses, and then day 30 came by. I was too busy with base decorating that I didn't even notice that it was time for a Deerclops. I decided to kill her with a classic swamp method. I completely forgot about Shadow Glommer by that time, and went through the same forest to a swamp. When I was running through the dark, I heard a loud screech, and tall, winged, nightmare-looking creature charged at me. Suddenly, Deerclops wasn't that big of a problem anymore. I ran for my life to a herd of beefalo, in hope that they would protect me anyhow. But the figure approached, and my light sources were draining fast. Lantern extinguished quickly, and I had to craft a new torch every time the previous one ran out, which only shortened our distance every time, until I died. From that moment, I was not able to continue playing, because every time I created a new world, the same figure attacked me the moment night came. I tried to fight it, but no use. Wait, is that seriously how it ends? Oh man, that was a good one, wasn't it? Just thinking about Shadow Glommer. Man, are you guys at home scared yet? Terrified? Horrified? Oh, I can already see the looks on your faces. Shadow Glommer, Anyway, how about we look at the next one? Over here. Once in October around this time last year, I had one of the most terrifying experiences whilst playing Don't Starve Together that had me trembling with fear. Pay heed to my warning, for this tale will give you a start, so read only further if you are not faint of heart. When I opened the game that October evening, I was met with a Faceless Wilson on the title screen. How peculiar, I thought before going to the item collection to see my brand new pair of bell-bottom jeans. All the characters in there had their face blank too, to my surprise, all except for Maxwell, who was missing outright. Even though I was certainly a little spooked, I wasn't going to let this dampen my mood, so with a hop and a click, I created a new single player world whilst trying to get used to the Faceless character gimmick. It was still Don't Starve in gameplay at least, although the atmosphere was bleak, which meant the game was missing quite a bit of its usual allure. The music was for some reason missing, and the night ambience now included a grotesque hissing. A few of the sprites and textures were nowhere to be found, which meant I'd sometimes be attacked by an invisible hound. Whilst my entertainment was in a state of ebb and flow, I had an uneasy sense of curiosity that would only continue to grow. It wasn't until after I had made it through my first day that the reason for Maxwell's disappearance made its presence known to me. Although the first hint was given at night when I could barely see, a little piece of paper with a sketch scrawled on it pinned to a tree. The doodle itself was of a person, just a little guy. I didn't know what it meant, nor even really why. Then, without another moment of hesitation, I ran off to find rocks for the sake of a brand new alchemy engine. That's a stretch. By the following morning, the world around me had fallen silent. A press of the tilde key showed me that I surprisingly still had a compliant client. As for how the audio had truly vanished, I think I have an idea, but that will have to be saved for a little later. Of all the oddities in this world, the one that stood out to me the most was a grassy plain, not unlike that pictured below. However, when I would run through it, I would eventually see an unusual circle of stone. Before I could ever reach it, I would be sent back to the floored postern, with the sound of a grisly moan. This was the only sight to put me off completely. I decided that enough was enough, and I was done for today. While how I was going to fix my game was still up in the air, I just hoped there had to be a way. As if my thoughts were heard, I was paid a visit on the night of the 3rd. Here I am, seated beside the fire pit. Then, from out behind the conifer, comes this git. That's a great rhyme. Wait a minute. It was the Slender Man. He was the one playing as Maxwell without a face. I don't think Slender Man knew how to make modded characters in his state. After a moment, he ran up to me, which gave me quite a fright, but just when I suspected something terrible was about to happen, he simply gave me a hot dog. A hot dog? These aren't in the game, oh my god. At that point, I knew all of these events were Slender Man's nonsense, and decided that the only way I was going to solve this was to give him my own 2 cents. Knock it off, I said in chat. This needs to stop. He didn't reply with anything but another hot dog. I said knock it off, I reiterated while irate. I don't want your wieners. Oh boy, that made him mad. He runs off behind the same tree he came from and disappears as soon as night clears. You wouldn't believe what petty plan that angry guy had. He set the season to summer, then returned my game to normal. Just because I didn't want his stupid Frankfurters. I hope to never see him in my games again. I really hate that Slenderman. Okay, wow, that was actually kind of good with like the whole rhyming and everything, until, you know, the hungry home data turned up. Either way, I am absolutely shaking like a scared little dog right now. Yeah, my library is now 1 poem bigger. Oh, how blummin' lovely this is. We still got time for a couple more though, don't we? How about this one? This all began a couple of months ago once I had been gifted a copy of the game Don't Starve Together by my friend, whose name I will leave out of this message as to not upset him and hopefully buy me some more time. I began playing the game almost every day for hours on end, making it to day 30 on one run and then 50 on the next. I was hooked. One of my favourite characters is Wilson, since his quotes amuse me. I very much enjoy his style of gameplay. Eventually my friend had invited me to join his server to check something. This intrigued me greatly, so I decided to join. Strangely, the server was named Admit Regrown Woods, which I found interesting and then proceeded to immediately brush off. If only I had known then. Anyways, I joined the server, but strangely instead of being greeted by your typical DST world, it was off, to say the least. All of the sprites looked like they had been directly imported from a bootleg version of the game. The only sprite remained unchanged were the character sprites. I was playing Wilson, of course, and he looked fine. I met up with my friend in his base, but he was acting strange. He couldn't seem to remember my name and wouldn't stop going off about dyed fertilizer. Jokingly, I said, "Who are you and what did you do to the real Jonathan?" I thought the name was, like, private. Coldly and bitterly, whatever was abomination that was talking to me then had erupted into massive red vines that gathered together to form a massive horrible version of my second favourite character, Wormwood. Surprised by what I thought was simply a creepy mod my friend had added to the server, I said, "Haha, that's funny, but seriously, I have to go, goodbye." But when I tried opening my menu, it wouldn't open. Suddenly, none of my inputs would go through. I was stuck there forced to watch whatever abomination replaced my friend writhe and squirm around my screen. As of writing this, he has only began to get closer and closer to my screen. The very same red vines I had seen in the video game world have sprouted in my room and locked my door. I can only watch helplessly as he approaches. Even closing my eyes has failed to save me from having to look at the abomination. My skin has begun to rot and sprout these very same vines. My vision has begun to blur, and it has been tinted crimson red. Now all that I can even muster up the strength to do is to think about the one thing. Dyed fertilizer. Now this is what I live for. Absolute terrific perfection. When I think of Creepypasta, I think about bootlegs and giant red wormwoods. Lovely stuff, thank you so much. This is going in the library with the best of them. But how about we wrap things up this year's Scary Scribing with another bit of scary spaghetti? I've said scary too many times this video, I do apologise. How about this one? Hello, new Don't Starve Together player here, and I have a lot of questions regarding how the game works. I started playing Don't Starve Together a couple of months ago after a good friend of mine recommended the game to me. I don't really play survival games, but he assured me it's worth trying. Turns out, I really like the game, so I have been playing it constantly since then. However, recently something weird started happening and I'm unable to find any solutions online, so I figured I could ask here. After finally defeating the ancient fuel weaver last week, my game abruptly crashed. After I opened the game again, my world was corrupted. This really upset me. I was so close to finally beating the game and it all just fell apart. I figured it was one of those stupid UI mods my friend made me download after he heard about it from some British YouTuber, so I just turned off all of my mods and started a brand new world. After generating a whole new world, without mods this time, I was not allowed to pick Wilson again. I assume this is a thing to encourage new players to try other characters, but I'm not a huge fan of it. This time around I picked Weber because I really liked the beard mechanic. When I spawned into the new world, I started with a webby whistle, spider eggs, 2 pieces of monster meat, and a nightmare fuel. They forgot to list it somehow. This brand new world was fantastic with lots of great set pieces, early gears, and a huge pig village for the base. As Weber, I decided not to rush things this time. After all, survival is the whole appeal of the game. After about a week of playing in my spare time, I managed to survive an entire year. Autumn was back, my base was huge, and I had all the food I needed to not starve. I did manage to run out of rocks though, so I set myself a goal for the day. Collect 3 stacks of rock and flint. That was all I wanted to do, but it seems the game had other plans. Only after walking miles from my base, I realised how low my sanity was. I had no choice but to place down a campfire, fill it with logs, and prepare to fight some shadow creatures. It went horribly wrong. I took a lot of hits and nearly broke my football helmet. After a long and embarrassing fight, I managed to kill enough shadow creatures to restore my sanity to 30, but something I have never seen before occurred. Instead of just losing aggression towards me and walking around aimlessly as they usually do, they surrounded me and repeatedly roared. For once, their roars even had sound effects. The crawling horror roared like a bear, and the terror beak screeched like a hawk. The shadow creature's roar plummeted my sanity to 0, but they didn't just attack me again. They ran away into the darkness, out of my sight. As I sat there alone, insane and vulnerable, I heard a very distinct sound. It was the sound of Wilson's trumpet voice, but wet? I didn't know how to describe it. It sounded like the sound was emitting from underwater, as if Wilson's lungs were flooded with liquid. I was panicking at this point. I was in horrible condition and really didn't want to lose another great world after so many hours. I looked over at the clock to see if this damn night was anywhere near being over, and came to the realization that there was no more daytime or dusk. The clock only had nighttime. I was stranded in darkness with my very last 4 logs. I stood there near the dwindling campfire, wondering if there was some way I could move forward, but I felt as if wandering out into the darkness with a pathetic torch would surely be the death of me. After all, there had to be some kind of shadow creature still lurking out there, right? What I saw was nothing like what I expected. It was Wilson. Not the lovable dorky scientist nerd I knew him as, but a distorted shell of his former self. He was possessed by the shadows, neither dead nor living. As he continued to talk in his gurgling voice, he began reaching for the campfire. I was clueless on what to do, so I just watched in absolute shock. He instantly extinguished what remained of the campfire, and after a few seconds of silence, killed me in one blow. Weber emitted a sound I have never heard before, seemingly screaming in terror. After all of this, I shut off my PC and went to sleep. I had definitely seen enough for one day. The next morning, I created a whole new world just to check up on something, and as I suspected, Weber was now also unplayable. If anyone here knows how to fix all of this, it would be much appreciated. Until then, I will never touch this game again. Blimey O'Reilly, Shadow Wilson is real. What a story to end the night on. Genuinely, that was actually pretty good. I really liked that one. Oh, I don't even know if I could go to bed after reading that. You hit the nail on the head with what a starving creepypasta should be with that one. You ought to be proud of yourself. A lovely conclusion for this year's Halloween special. I hope you all enjoyed this year's lovely romp into the scary world of Don't Starve Creepypastas. It was kind of awful, I know, don't I? Thank you all again, everybody who not only was featured in the video, but submitted an entry either way. If you want to take a look at all of them yourself, then check out the event submission channels in the Discord, which is linked in the description. Again, massively sorry I could not include every creepypasta. I did not want this video to go on for too long. But I promise you, I read every single one, and I enjoyed all of them. Like, some of them were genuinely good, and I didn't want to put them in this video because they were actual literary masterpieces. I didn't want to put up, like, actual Shakespearean writing next to Big Evil Wormwood, for example. Not to saying the Big Evil Wormwood was bad by any means, it was great in its own creepy right. Especially the one that was just a Dead Estate fanfiction disguised as a Don't Starve creepypasta. You know who you are, person that wrote that. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see everybody at home next year if we decide to do this again. Or the next video if you're subscribed. Ta-ta everybody, have a lovely and scary night, and watch out for Shadow Wilson, and Shadow Glommer, and Big Red Wormwood and the Slenderman.